Hello, hello, and welcome to Speaking About Speaking. And as you can see, I'm here today again with the lovely Ella Orr, personal brand and social media coach and expert. And today's going to be slightly different, isn't it, Ella? Because
It is.
we thought we'd have a discussion. Obviously, you've been on the show a couple of times already, and I thought it would
Yes.
just be nice for us to have a dig a little bit deeper with the guys out there listening around something very interesting. So what I'm going to do is going to read out a bit of a setup for our topic today. And I would love, if there's anybody out there listening, then please, throw in a comment and let us know what you think. So here goes. So Ella and I will be talking about how do you use your voice on social media? Do you speak up or shut up? Do you consider the risks to your personal brand when you put yourself in front of an audience? Are you concerned that speaking up or standing up for your values will lower your status in the eyes of your tribe and alienate potential clients and customers? Do you conform to fit in so as not to create waves? Ella argues that to build a personal brand requires you to take a risk. Is that something that worries you and means you stay in your box and in your comfort zone? Now, journalist and author of Status Games, Will Storr, says that status is a human need that we gamble with every time we put ourselves forward to comment or post on social media. Do you agree? So, Ella, I'm going to throw that one over to you. Do you agree that that status is something, and our personal brand is something that we put on the line every time we put our heads above the parapet and show ourselves on social media?
Well, it is an interesting question, Jackie, and I'm going to I'm going to take a risk here because, of, to me, yes, it is a risk. It is a risk when you put yourself out there in terms of your personal brand. When you talk about your values, you talk in more depth about the kinds of things that you're passionate about and that motivate you, and why you do what you do, why you get out of bed in the morning, what your hopes and aspirations are. I mean, this is what makes us human.
Yeah.
And so the more that we reveal of ourselves of that, the more, the more we lay ourselves open to criticism.
Yeah.
So, and we don't want to be criticized. It's human nature to not want to be criticized. It's human nature to be guarded and not to give too much of ourselves away. But then if we don't do that, if we don't, to a certain extent, take a gamble on our status and take a gamble on our personal brand, we just become a bit wishy-washy. We become a bit forgettable. And that's the dilemma, because we don't want to be forgotten. We want to be remembered.
Yeah.
We want to be that person that when someone says, I need this person to help me with this, that, and the other in my business, or I'm looking for this particular type of product or whatever, that somebody else, not just ourselves, but somebody else will say, oh, you need to go and hire Jackie, or you need to speak to Ella, or whatever. So there is definitely a risk. And I'm saying that as a personal brand coach, that there is a risk in sharing your personal brand and gambling with your status and everything else. But if we don't do that, we probably just kind of blend into the wallpaper, and
Yeah.
then the competition takes over, they get all the business, and then we're wondering why it is that we don't make any money.
Yes. And personal, it does what it says on the tin. A personal brand is about you as a person. It's about your personality, isn't it? But
Yeah.
how far do you go? Now, I think this came from something your LinkedIn newsletter, which I have put a link to in the comments there, where you were talking about that. You'd put something on LinkedIn yourself and had
Yes.
some negative feedback. Is that right? And so,
Yeah. Well, that was a post that that was a comment on a post. And I'm not going to go into details about the post because it wasn't my post, it was somebody else's post. But I commented on the post, and the response to my comment led the person who posted the comment, then posted the post, to then do another post based on what I'd said, based on my comment, because I'd gone against the grain.
Right.
I'd kind of, there were lots and lots of comments on this post. It got a lot of engagement, and most people were agreeing with the person. And but I wasn't necessarily disagreeing. I was giving a different point of view. That's what I liked.
Very diplomatic.
Different point of view. Yeah, well, yeah, because that was the way that I saw it. But I took a little bit of kind of umbrage, because then my comment was kind of highlighted as maybe not being, you know, not being the way that the person who posted the post thought. So they decided to then put a post out, based on my comment. So then I went and did a post, based on my comment as well, giving my point of view, and got 20,000 impressions on it.
Wow.
So, it did kind of stir up a conversation. So I think, I noticed that John, I think, is here. John is
Yep.
very
Yep. John Experience with us.
One of the things I've learned from John, and John's always said this, is, we do need to sort of take a little bit of a risk. We do need to stir it a little bit if we want our personal brand to be noticed. Because if we just say stuff that goes, oh, well, yes, well, I agree with you, and I agree with you, and I agree with you, then it's like, well, what do you actually stand for? And the other thing I was going to mention was that this. Then I did also mention this in my newsletter, because Chris Doe, who is a really well-known content creator, a massive influencer on LinkedIn and across social media. On one of his lives that I was listening to a few weeks ago, talked about taking a measure of leveled risk. And that is what I always challenge people who work with me to do. Take a measure of leveled risk, because if you just stay in your safety zone, your comfort zone, you're not doing anything to what you different perhaps to what you used to do. And then you're wondering why it is that you're not getting clients, or you're not getting the leads that you want.
Yeah. So I wonder then, how do you get a measured how far do you go, and what is measured? How do you measure how far to go that is not going to damage your personal
Yeah.
brand or damage your status?
Well, I mean, I've learned this, Jackie, because as you know, I used to be a teacher. I had to be very diplomatic. Well, we both, have worked in education. You have to be very diplomatic. And when I first trained in social media, and then started posting on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Facebook, and whatever, I thought, right, I'm getting used to posting. I'm getting used to my voice, my tone of voice, what I want to say. But as my confidence grew, as I posted more, as I got more positive responses to the posts that I was posting, but also to the comments that I was making on other people's posts, I think it helps you to find that level. It helps you to know how far you can go. And I mean, one of the things, as I say, about that post that I put out, a few weeks ago, that got all those impressions, that got a lot of engagement, was I was quite surprised that it did get that level of engagement. And I think it was because I presented something that could be a point that could be argued over. And I think that's the thing. If you're prepared, if I mean, we all hear about devil's advocate, don't we? And whatever. And I know there are content creators, just on LinkedIn, on Instagram, wherever else, on TikTok and so forth, who will say things perhaps to be a bit controversial,
Mm.
because they want to get, and we know, I mean, it's the way, I mean, social media is no different to the mainstream media. The mainstream media is the same. It will present an argument, and then you're always going to get people who are going to go, and hold on a minute, it's not like that, or haven't you thought about it from this point of view? But that is the kind of thing that, yes, I know that people are worried about, I mean, there's certain topics that you sort of steer well clear of. Some people don't. Some people talk about everything on LinkedIn, but there'll be certain topics that I will steer well clear of, because I think, well, I don't want my brand to be noticed for that. And I think if you think it's going to damage your brand, whether it be your company brand, your business brand, your personal brand, don't say it, don't post about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting that this kind of thing about status within your tribe. So if you're in an arena or in an industry where you're posting specifically on LinkedIn, I would imagine, because of the sort of the business communities that there are on LinkedIn, is that people will often what's the word? They kind of they want to be seen as value. So they
Yes.
will kind of, they'll agree, and they'll
Yeah.
sort of try and outdo other people
Yeah.
within
Yeah.
that, to see if they can get a one-upmanship, so that their status gets slightly higher. And that's
Yeah.
that's not always the best way to go.
No.
And I think, as you
No.
say, gauging it in terms of what damage it may do if you go too
Yeah.
far is probably the best way.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even controversial things, it as you say, it can be. I mean, I've always learnt an etiquette on LinkedIn, for example, that if someone posts something and I comment, I'm not going to make a comment that goes, well, actually, I my post was better, my idea is better, come over and look at my profile instead, or come and look at my course instead, or whatever it is. I mean, that's just not the thing to do. But there will be some people who'll go, well, actually, you know, I think that what I'm doing is better. So come over and look at my stuff instead. And I can't stand that sort of one-upmanship. It's
No,
terrible.
that's no awful. That's, salesy one-upmanship
Yeah,
is
yeah,
going to turn people off.
yeah,
Certainly,
exactly,
certainly.
exactly. Yeah.
So what the other social media platforms apart from LinkedIn, where I mean, Twitter was always, or X as it's now known. I've never
Mm,
really. I mean, I have an account, but I don't really engage that much there, because I don't know. I think maybe sometimes I am a little bit worried about getting too involved in conversations. I'm a lot
yes.
happier either on Instagram, where it's about a picture, it's about an image, and it's
Yeah.
about, maybe some tips or techniques or whatever. It's more to do with that sort of thing. I think when you kind of engage on platforms like X,
Yes.
where your opinion, it's kind of what's expected of you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah.
differences in the
Yeah.
social media platforms. What
Yeah.
what do you think on the different platforms?
Yeah, I think so. And again, it depends how much attention you want to attract to yourself. I mean, I follow people on LinkedIn who are also on TikTok, and I can tell you they are very different on TikTok to the way they are on LinkedIn. Because on TikTok they'll be a lot more vocal. They'll be a lot more. It'll be a lot clearer about what their stance is on particular issues. They would never utter that at all on LinkedIn. You know, but I like it because I think I'm seeing another side to that person, and it's a bit like those. You have to think. Well, I think a lot of people it's helpful if they realise that social media is just like the conversations we have in real life. There'll be certain things that you will say in front of certain people, and it's okay to discuss that in front of those people, but then you wouldn't dare utter that in front of that group of people. Just like there's certain things you'll say in front of your family, or you'd say in front of your friends that you wouldn't say in front of your family.
Yeah, yeah, totally, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, we've got John Esperian here. Hi, John. As we said earlier, lovely to have you here. If you have any comments, John, if you want to join in, then please do. We've got James here. It's becoming a bit of a regular, James. Good to see you.
Ah,
I love the fact that a coach, whether it be a life or business coach, make multiple posts and videos because it helps me narrow down and find the coach that fits me. I've been through a lot of them, and I was amazed at the wide range of personalities. I would think coaches exposing what their personality is like would be 90% A plus, 10% A minus, if that's even
yeah,
the right word. No,
yeah,
absolutely understand
yeah. I
that.
understand what
that
James is saying.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
that's absolutely relevant, isn't it?
It,
If you can see somebody's personality, you get a feeling of how they will work with you. And it is very much that thing of you will if you are yourself, and if you are authentic, as they say,
yes, yeah,
you will attract the people that want to work with you, and you will
yeah.
repel the people that
You don't.
are not meant to be with you. So
Mm,
that, I think that's quite a good way to gauge it. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you,
yeah,
Karen.
and again, you know, I mean, I'm always trying to find ways because I've found my voice on LinkedIn now and on social media, and I'm very comfortable with my brand. Um, that I mean, I will say things like, "I'm not like other personal brand coaches. I'm not. I don't do." And I put a post about this a few months ago as well. I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. And I'm comfortable with saying that because I am very clear about the kind of people who I want to attract to work with me.
Yeah.
So and I think that is really, really helpful, and I'm seeing more content creators doing that, saying, you know, these are the things I don't do, so don't bother asking about my offers because you are not going to be my ideal client.
Yeah, yeah, and there are, you know, there's plenty of people out there to go
Yeah,
round, and there are lots of people working in different ways, and we all need to find that person that
exactly.
we're going to work best with.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
So what kind of I mean, it is interesting that people show a different side to themselves on different social media platforms. Where where would you say is best to kind of really get your voice heard? I mean, obviously, from my background, speaking and getting on stages
yes,
specifically,
yeah,
it's about being a thought leader, isn't it? It's about actually putting your ideas out there. And you've got to be
yeah,
brave to do that. You've got to be very confident in who you are and what it is that what it is that you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. I think it's again. I mean, I put this in another recent newsletter that I published, in fact, last week, where I said, you know, I say to people, you know, find your comfort zone and with your personal branding, because you're much more likely to do it. Then you're much more likely to commit to it. It'll be much more in it aligned to the way you are as a person. So if you don't like video, there's no point, to a certain extent, you know, being like having a YouTube channel, is there? You know, there's
Yeah,
absolutely no point. And I think that's what puts a lot of people off TikTok. If you're not comfortable with speaking to your, and I mean, I say speaking on video, I mean, it's just speaking into your phone. That is all it is, switching the video on. But, you know, I understand for a lot of people that is a no-no. So TikTok wouldn't necessarily be the platform that you would want to create content on. So we talk about what's best, I would say, what kind of content do you feel most comfortable creating? You know, that you're going to create regularly, and that you feel comfortable with producing. I mean, interestingly, Jackie, I've had some people say to me recently, I don't like LinkedIn because I don't like writing,
right.
you know, and they're worried about their written skills on LinkedIn. And I understand that because they're worried about being judged,
Yeah,
about their grammar, about their, you know, spelling, punctuation, and everything else. And again, you know, I see it as my job to try and kind of nurture people across the line with that, because
yeah,
I say, well, there isn't, like, you know, it's not received pronunciation or anything like that on LinkedIn. You speak in the voice that you're comfortable with, and you write in the way that you're comfortable with. But
yes,
obviously, I'd say, first of all, find the content, the way of creating content that you feel comfortable with. But also, um, you know, you do need to sort of, like, to a certain extent, consider where your audience is going to be. Um, but 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 again, I do kind of argue that if you're creating content really well and consistently, and you're building an audience on a particular platform, people will come to you and find you there. So, as I say, there's people who, like, there's legal professionals who I don't follow on LinkedIn because I much prefer the way they express themselves on TikTok. So
right.
even though LinkedIn might seem like the natural home for legal professionals, there are some who are doing amazing
Yes, I
content
wouldn't
on
even,
TikTok.
yes, TikTok and legal professionals to me just don't seem to be a natural fit. But going back to that thing of people do worry about being judged, whether it's their writing, whether it's their voice,
Yeah,
whether it's, you know, the thoughts they have. They are just worried about showing up because they think that
yes,
people aren't going to understand them, or they're going to laugh, or they're going to judge them for who they are, and that worries people. And that's the work that I do behind the
mm,
scenes, which is, you know, people might not necessarily want to get on a stage and speak, but if they want to get in front of any kind of audience, they want to start talking about what it is they do, who they are, why they do it, and why they're good at it. They need to find out all of those things for themselves. So that's very much what
Yeah.
I do, is finding those stories, which we did together. It's like digging
Yeah.
deep and what's made you do this? What were you doing age 9 that kind of has kind
Yeah.
of fed through everything that you do now? What are the experiences that you've had in your life that have brought you to this point, that now you have this passion that you want to share with other people? And I
Yeah.
found that once you've kind of done that work with people, once you've found out what those stories are, and so often people look at their own stories and don't value them because they are their own, they've lived with
Yeah.
them. Whereas if they
Mm.
if they speak them out loud to anybody, you, me, whoever, another coach, just get them out there, then other people, you'll be amazed how many people will say, oh my god, wow, that's an amazing story.
Mm.
That's why you are good at what you do. That's why you are now doing this and sharing your experiences with your audience, and
Those
that's why you're
stories,
now.
yeah, and those stories are so important to your personal brand, Jackie.
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
as you say, they are when people say, "Well, I don't know what to speak about."
Yeah,
It's like, well, we've all got, we've all lived a life so far on this planet, and we'll
yeah.
all have experiences that will have stayed with us, whether they be good or bad.
Yeah. I mean, I literally did a talk last week, and I've got to do it all over again on Thursday, about finding the joy within. And actually, they came to me and said, this is the talk that we need. And it was once I was sort of looking into that it came back to all of my stories, all of my experiences,
Yeah.
the resilience, the trust, everything within me made that talk, and made me comfortable doing that talk, and inspired others
Yes.
because it was so relevant to them as an audience, and resonated with other people sat there. And I had people coming up to me afterwards, like you did when you did your talk, and that happened to me, and I didn't
Yeah.
realize, so our own stories are the best place to start. And once we've
Yeah.
uncovered those and we're comfortable with those, then all of that personal branding, all of that content that you want to make and want to share with your audience, it's all there, and you're confident and comfortable sharing it. But
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
do value what it is that you've been through, because it's
Yeah.
important for other people to hear it.
But also, what I really love about what you do, Jackie, is that because I know you've got a wealth of experience, and I've heard you speaking so many times on this show, and as well as in other circumstances, is that I I know that there is a kind of mindset thing that people go through of I'm gonna post this, or I'm gonna talk about it, or I'm gonna stand on that stage and say that, and it's like, ugh, the freeze, you know, or uh, it's the I'm going to get my words muddled, which is what I was worried about speaking on stage, or I'm not going to be able to say it succinctly.
Yeah.
There's all of those little voices in our head, which you are very good at helping people to tame.
Thank you.
But it's really important, because unless we get, as I know, we you say, if we unless we sort of like get comfortable with the preparation, what are we going to talk about, have I cleared my mind of all the other um, script that's going on and everything else. Have I done my breathing? Have I stretched and all that drama preparation as well? The improvisation and everything else. Then we can't use our voice in the best way possible, and speak confidently. And then if we make a mess of it, we kind of go, "Oh, I'm never doing that again."
Yeah.
I'm not going to put myself on video. I'm not going on a live. I'm not speaking on a podcast. I'm not going to present in front of that group of people. And it's a shame.
It is, but as you know, exactly as we're talking about, it's a risk, and if you want to raise your personal brand, if you want other people to know who you are and what you're doing, and what of value you can give to other people, then you
Mm,
need to step out of that box. I think
yeah.
you had a little gif, I think, in your newsletter, of that, like somebody getting out of a box.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it is.
Great.
It
It's
is.
just,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think as we're speaking about here, it's you don't have to take a massive leap to do it. Um, I think back, as I say, to like 5-6 years ago when I first started um speaking on social media, and I think I did a Facebook Live. That was the first time, and I kind of like, fumbling around with where to switch it on and everything
Been
else.
there.
We've all been there, and I ummed and ahed my way through it, which I still do to a certain extent. Um, uh, but I made a start and I did it. And the more that I did it, the more comfortable I became with doing it.
Absolutely.
And then with all the other experience that I've had of being on Instagram Live, people out there, is a very good way to practice speaking live, in a kind of like virtual studio format like
Yeah.
we have here.
Yeah.
Instagram Live and Facebook Live, and you don't have to do it for very long. And the beauty of those is that you can delete them if you really hate them. But I certainly do recommend to people that they give speaking live a go in terms of getting video practice,
Yeah.
because I think it stops the constant repeated recording. Oh no, that's wrong. Oh, and I mean, I've had like 50 or 60 attempts at recording a video sometimes.
Oh gosh, yeah, I've been there as well. Do you know, I did one this last week, and I thought, all right, I've now got a blooper tape. Which I must put out there at some point. And actually, when I look at the video that I did produce in the end, it is actually quite serious. And I think, well, that's, maybe that's too scripted, and perhaps the blooper tape is actually more me, and it's it kind of is more inviting to the people that I want to attract. But it is about practice. It is about just doing it. Done is better than perfect. Is just give it a go. Takes baby steps, and whatever you're comfortable with, just start little by little by little and build up. You don't have to do it all at once.
No, and interestingly, I went to networking earlier today, and one of the people who's part of the welcoming team was a young woman who's says, she's introvert, but she wants to speak up more. She wants to speak more in public. And so she has put herself forward as one of the welcoming team at this networking group because she had to speak in front of 30 people. And I think what a brilliant way to sort of, as I say, dip your toe in the water in terms of knowing, because she said to me, I want to speak at this event next year, and this is my first step into doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't grow unless we step outside of our comfort zone. I heard someone say that the edge of your comfort zone is where the transformation happens. And unless you put yourself there, and it is scary, and we've all been there. The butterfly. Even me, having done everything that I've done in the last 30 years, to step in front of 60 people the other day with my clicker in my hand, it was like, oh my god. It is. Every single time I step in front of a class, almost, if I'm doing a workshop, even it's not necessarily nerves now, because I'm quite comfortable with that, but it is just that anticipation that maybe this is the time when it's all going to go wrong,
but we care.
We care, and that's because we care. So you put yourself in that position. You feel those butterflies of anticipation as excitement. Really sort of change your mindset and get out there and be excited and enjoy it. That's what it's all about. Is have fun with it. If you're being you can't get caught out. Nobody's gonna show you up for being you. Nobody can turn around and say, "Aha, gotcha." Because it's your story. They're your stories. You can't get caught out. So, just put yourself out there and take a risk.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to the very beginning of our discussion, when we're talking about status and everything else, just think, you are not going to be all things to all people. We all know what a disaster that is. You are much more likely to attract people who want to work with you if you show a bit of your true self. And it's then up to you how much of that you want to show as part of your personal brand.
Yeah, and that's exactly what James was saying earlier about just making multiple posts and videos, because it helps narrow down and find the coach that fits. So I think that's really perfect. Relevant. Yeah. Well, I have to say we are coming up to 30 minutes, Ella. So that's gone like like that, which I knew it would. Thanks for being here, John. Thanks for being here, James. If there's anybody else out there listening or watching on the replay, then please do get in contact with either Ella or myself, and I will leave all of the, well, I'll show you quickly. We've got Ella's, there we go, Ella's website there, muchmoresocial.co.uk, and people can find you there, Ella. And this is me, power2speak.co.uk. And if you do need help from either of us on personal branding or speaking in front of your audience, do get in touch. I've got a group program, online group program starting next month, which start quite regularly. So if you're watching the replay or listening to the audio, then check out the website there and see when the next group program is coming up.
Book it, people. Book it.
Book in now. Oh, we've got, yes, look at that. We've got Mark Masters here. Strong advice from you both on breathing in and stepping up. Fabulous. Thanks for being here, Mark. And thank you, Ella. Thank you so much for being here for this. This has been really enjoyable, actually. We'll have to do more of these kind of discussion episodes. They work really well. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Jackie.
You're welcome. Well, I'm not here for the next 2 weeks because I'm off working, but I will be back on the 31st of October with the firecracker that is John Burkhart. So that will be an exciting show. And hi, Westro, great show. Life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. Absolutely, Westro. Fabulous. Well, thanks again, Ella, and thank you everybody for being here, and speak to you all soon, and I'll see you on the 31st. Bye.
Bye.